Hello! Welcome to this deck preview for Murakumo this time, and we're using the webcam again. I think I'll just switch up whenever I feel like it. It's pretty late at night, it's like 9:30 that I'm recording this, and I'm planning to still upload in the same day, so wish me luck. But luckily, the Tabletop plugin has been updated with the English scans for V-BT02, so we're going to be working with the English scans, which means that I don't need to work with the blur thing and showing effects with the Japanese cards and stuff, and I can just do this and zoom in if I want. So that's nice. That puts off a lot of processing power off my PC when I'm editing, so I should be able to get this out much faster. Anyway, I've been sitting on this for a while, and that's because of stuff that I already mentioned in the previous deck previews, but we're going to go through Murakumo this time. So here's our main card ZANBAKU, but going down we have an oversized axle marker, the best one, so we're not using the vanilla one for once. We're using that good stuff. I really need one in real life. I hope I pull one, but worst case I'll try to buy one for less than 50. But we have our starter, which is Cat Devil. Same usual effects. When you ride on top of it, draw a card. Then we have ZANBAKU, the card that created the deck that changed the meta forever. So the deck that dethrones OTT for the time being, or at least gets the same number of tops as OTT in Japan. We're going to see how that actually works out in the West, but normally this should be pretty good. You know, for my playtesting, this deck felt ridiculously strong, arguably one of the best right now in the game, and you know, for Axel decks, this is far and beyond the best one. So, his one and only skill is an Act Vanguard Circle. Once per turn, Counterblast 1, I'll enlarge this a little bit, and Soul Blast 1, you search your deck for up to one card with arrestor in its card name and call it to rearguard circle, so any arrestor. You shuffle your deck and he gets plus 5k, so ZANBAKU gets the plus 5k, and then if you have both right arrestor and left arrestor on your rearguard circles, your opponent cannot ride a grade 3 or greater from a grade 3 on his or her next ride phase. So this blocks them on its own for Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, and having two arrestors on the board. You block your opponent from re-riding, which is already a big deal because that's not a very big cost for something that nets you a +1 in card advantage and also blocks your opponent from rewriting. So for example, if your OTT opponent is on Amaterasu, they're not going to rewrite into Imperial Daughter, they're not going to get another grade 3 into their soul to get closer to their win con. If you're playing against Shadow Paladin and they're on Car, you block them from writing to PBD, which is also their win con, and you just block a lot of decks from doing what they want to do because a lot of decks are built in a way that they have one grade 3 that they want to go into at the start and another grade 3 that they want to go into after that. So, you know, like OTT and Shadows, and Kagero by that, you know, argument as well. There are some cards coming up in Gold Paladin that do circumvent this, and technically Dayusha circumvents only this part of it. So because it can't ride a grade 3 or greater from a grade 3 during ride phase, Dayusha kind of circumvents that, so it's still okay. But there's another part to this deck, obviously, that Dayusha cannot circumvent. But we'll get to that in a little bit. So ZANBAKU is the main card, and he is amazing. He does have the Axle marker. And then moving on, we have 3 Twin Swordsman Musashi. He is really good, and the reason why the trigger lineup in this deck is the way that it is, in my opinion. So he has a Vanguard and Rearguard skill, and also the Axle marker. When he attacks, if you have more rearguards than your opponent, so unfortunately not if you have the same amount, but still good, until end of that battle, he gets plus 5k. And when your opponent would call Guardians from their hand, they must call 2 or more at the same time. So it's the usual Battle Door Fighter effect. So this card is really good because often I find myself dropping it on an Axle circle and then stacking a crit on it, and then it's so much worse for them to guard it. Like, this is a Battle Door without any cost, which is really nice, and it doesn't have to be on Vanguard circle. You can just call it, and it's a Battle Door with no other cost. And that's really amazing because it doesn't cost anything, because the deck already costs a lot in terms of, you know, costs, but it's really good. It's just a great backup grade 3. You don't want to ride into it as much though, you mostly want to be calling it. And then I have a 2 of Mandala Lord. He's our last grade 3 that does have the Axle marker, and I think he's, when you're going first, a good first ride target because you get yourself a +2 in card advantage with his first skill, which reads, when you ride it, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, and choose 2 of your units, and you copy them, and then you shuffle your deck, so they don't go back to deck like old Murakumo did, they stay on the board. So that's really nice. If you, like, let's say have a grade 1 remaining from your last turn, you can just ride him, Counterblast 1, copy the grade 1, copy Mandala Lord, and you get 2 extra cards on the board for Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, and that is amazing. Not a lot of decks in Standard can do that right now, and that is just amazing. This deck makes a lot of advantage without any other, you know, side effects. So it's really nice. And then his second skill is an act on Vanguard Circle once per turn. You put a card from your hand into your soul, and all units with the same card name as this unit get plus 3k power. So this you don't use as much. In Pure Mandala Lord, which is a good budget deck that I'd like to talk about, you do, because it's just how the deck works. But he's still a pretty good grade 3, as I said. Like, going first, riding Zanbaku doesn't do that much, because, like, you can't block your opponent from riding up from grade 2 to grade 3. It's only from grade 3 to grade 3. So, you know, when you go first, going into him is like, yeah, you get an Axle Circle, and if you really want to push your tempo, you can call out another arrestor that you can attack with. So there's, you know, that's about all that you can do with that one Counterblast and Soul Blast, but Counterblast is pretty, you know, pretty important in this deck, so you don't want to be using it for just anything. But it's still good enough to get an arrestor on your board. Speaking of arrestors, we're going to go over the two of them. So the first one of which is Right Arrestor. When you call it, if you have a Zanbaku Vanguard, well, specifically Dueling Dragon Zanbaku, and if you have another rearguard with Arrestor in its card name, Counterblast 2, and you can put a card from your hand into your soul. Choose one of your opponent's Vanguards, and that unit cannot stand on your opponent's next stand phase. So that's the combo with Zanbaku. So Zanbaku doesn't let you re-ride from grade 3 to grade 3. This doesn't let your opponent's Vanguard stand. So against OTT, they lose out on a turn of a Protect marker, usually at least a +1 in hand advantage, if not 2. And then it's such a nice tempo swing. I've done this to my opponents when they were at 0 damage, and I still managed to swing the game in my tempo, and they couldn't recover from next turn, and then the turn after I win. So this card is really good. It is Counterblast 2, which is pretty pricey, but by the time you ride grade 3, especially going second, you will usually have the 3 damage needed to use the skill. So I think, you know, you're gonna get it off once per game for sure, twice if you heal, but usually I don't even need to get it off twice, because after the first time my opponents lost so much tempo that they can't even come back from it. So, you know, they lose their drive checks, they lose their, you know, any ride bonus that they have, their protect markers if they're playing protect, they're losing any kind of other advantage that their Vanguard gives them. So it's just really good. It's just really good combo. It's the best ride lock in the game. It's the best way to just control your tempo in the game, and so that's just how it is. Then Left Arrestor doesn't do anything too amazing. When he attacks a Vanguard on Rearguard Circle, if you have another Rearguard with Arrestor in its card name, you Soul Blast 1 and he gets +5 cancel in that battle. Important thing to note is you could have 2 of him on the board and still use a skill, because he just cares about having another Rearguard with Arrestor in its card name. It doesn't have to be Right Arrestor. So he's a bit easier to use, so I think that's quite good. You use the skill quite often, actually, because 14k attacker is pretty nice, especially if you get a trigger on it, or if you put it on Axel. So I think it's quite good, because it's a searchable 14k attacker from your deck, and that's very nice. So that's going to be Left Arrestor. And then our last grade 2 is the Fushimi, which is also a super nice card that adds this little tad bit of control to the deck. So we already have Advantage, we have tempo swings in Zanbaku and Right Arrestor, and now we have a bit of control in the sense that we can attack your opponent's back row. So his first skill is Vanguard Rearguard Circle Continuous. If you have 4 more Rearguards during your turn, he gets +5k power. Already a 14k attacker, which is a really good start. It means that your early game is looking pretty good. You have a lot of pressure. What's nice is that against Shadows, you can actually attack their Nemains, and then if they don't have another one in hand and they didn't call another one already, then you're doing pretty good. You know, you could even use 2 Fushimis to attack both Nemains, for example, because that's a 14k swing on a 5. And the thing is that Fushimi's +5k doesn't have to be on Vanguard, so you can attack the rearguard with that +5k too. So that's really cool. So his second skill is, when you ride him or call him, you give one of your units the ability to attack the back row. So you can give it to him, you can give it to one of your other rearguards. I usually give it to my rats, or I give it to my Fushimi. Then moving along, we have Shijimamaru. Yes. So his skill is, when it boosts, 2 of your units with the same card name as the boosted unit get +3 cancel on a turn. This is really cool because it's not once per turn. Well, even if it was, it wouldn't really matter, but you can call multiples and then the skill will go off multiple times, which actually does quite a bit, because sometimes you can boost, like, I don't know, a Left Arrestor they have twice on the board, and then, you know, he's gonna get, they're both going to get +3k, and then if you boost the other Left Arrestor with one of these, they'll get another +3k. So it's pretty cool. I like him quite a lot. He can fix some numbers quite well, and I like it for that. So I think he's a pretty good grade 1. 7k base power, which is a little bit unfortunate because that's what most of the grade 1s in this deck are, but still pretty good card, and, you know, I like it for that. It doesn't cost anything, so it's nice just for that. It's also Gallatin's brother. Nice. Next up we have Stealth Beast Million Rat. Act Rearguard Circle. If you don't have another million rat on your rearguard circle, counterblast 1 and search your deck for a million rat, and then call it to rearguard circle and shuffle your deck, and that unit loses 4,000 power until end of turn. So what I often do is I call it, I use the skill to call one in front, and then it's a 12k attacking row, and then if I give Fushimi skill to them, then it's a 12k attacking row to the back row, which is also pretty nice. So I like it for that. I think it's perfectly fine to just use it in that way. You can call the million rat anywhere you want, so it can be behind Vanguard, so it's just a 4k boost at first, but then it goes up next turn when it resets to 8k power. But in the end, it's just a nice card. It's a counterblast 1 for +1. You can't really say much about that because it's in an Axel clan, and that is amazing. And then our last grade 1 as we tour around the triggers is Amatsu Snipe. I didn't play this card at first, but then after thinking about it, I decided to play it because in the end, it's a continuous plus 5k. Almost every turn. So Vanguard and Rearguard Circle continuous. If a Rearguard was placed from your deck this turn, he gets plus 5k. So every time you search your deck for anything, so for example, if you use ZANBAKU skill to search, if you use Mandala Lord skill to search, if you use the Rat skill to search, he will get the plus 5k, and that's really, really nice actually. So I like that quite a lot. It's a 17, well, it's a 12k attacker at any point, or 12k booster if you want. In early game that does quite a bit as well, if you like clone a million rat or something. So I like it quite a bit. I think it's quite good also as a booster if you want to just drop it behind Vanguard or something. So I think it's quite good for that, and there's nothing wrong with playing it. And then I play the 4 heals, and then 6 crits and 6 draws, because we have 2 effects that put cards into our soul, so it's not a bad idea to put the draw triggers into the soul. So I like it quite a bit for that. And then the 6 crit, because as I mentioned, stacking crits on the Musashi is a big deal. So it does go quite a far away if they don't, even if they have a PG, they have to drop an extra card. And, you know, I think the crits just do a lot more in this deck, even though you do attack with Vanguard first quite a bit. But I think fronts just don't do it as much as a Musashi with a crit, you know? I think that's just how it is, and I do like it for that. But that's basically it for the deck. There's one card that I mentioned that I used to play, which is the Turbulent Edge. So I play this instead of the Amatsu Snipe, but I realized that it's a Counterblast and Soul Blast 1 just to change every Turbulent Edge into a Mandala Lord, and then all Mandala Lords on Vanguard and Rearguard Circle get plus 3k. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, you know, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1 to get a massive power up. But I was like, how often do I actually have more than one Turbulent Edge on the board? You know, if this searched a Turbulent Edge and then converted everything, that'd be nice. But Counterblast Soul Blast 1 for basically a bit of extra power is not really worth it. So I decided to drop it quite fast. I played it at first also because I had an AK base, which I valued quite a bit, but right now I think it's better off not to play it. But this card is amazing in the pure Mandala Lord deck, but not in ZANBAKU as much. So this is the deck and how it looks for standard right now. So now let's take a look at the deck in action in a game. Getting into this game, we're going to be playing against Shadow Paladin, so I kind of hinted at it while I was talking about the deck, but we are playing against Zystral from Yellowcard Vanguard, who, you know, has revived his channel a little bit recently, so you can check out his videos once again. But I honestly don't know how I feel about this matchup, because sometimes it can be really good, sometimes it can be terrible. It depends on who goes first, who goes second, whether you get the ZANBAKU off early enough, and then, you know, whether he has the right setup for PBD to be able to punish you multiple times. So we can see that I first wrote that left arrestor and then changed it to a right arrestor, and here I'm going to use the Million Rat on turn 2 to call out another one as a 12k attacker column. So this is going to be a 9k, I get a draw, give the power to the rat. This is a 22, already putting him at 2 damage just on grade 1, so that's already a good start. He rides the Maka and then calls down the Karen, and then essentially he uses Maka's skill to call down the Karen, and then with Karen's skill he gets to refund the Counterblast and also get himself a draw from Maka's skill, and then he uses the main skill to search out another one, so that's also very nice. So also, you know, getting a good board set up from turn 2 immediately, and also getting a good attacker while we're at it. So let's see where he's gonna attack with the Karen column. Here I'm always inclined to take the first couple of damage because I do want to be on, you know, well, I'm gonna guard that one because it's just simple attack to guard, but then he does crit me, so, you know, I was kind of trying to stay on 2 damage for that time, just because I was like, well, I can't do Zanbaku anyway next turn, just because, you know, he's on grade 2, so there's no point in doing it, but I still obviously ride it for the Axel. And then I was debating on using the skill, because I was like, well, I could get an extra arrestor on my field, and then get an extra card on the board, but I do have the 2 Musashis, which is definitely nice, and I can pair it up with the Shiji Mamaru, which is also super cool. So here I'm going to give one of my Fushimi skills to the rat, and then give the other one to the Fushimi itself. That way I can at least try to attack those domains, but, you know, let's see whether that gets me anywhere. So this is just a 12k swing. He does take it. I get no triggers. There's one domain in the damage zone, which is really nice. So I attack one of the back row domains with my rat, but he does guard it because it's only 15k attack to guard, which is also quite nice, you know, because even though it attacks the back row, you can still guard against that attack. So that's quite cool. Then he damages the second domain, and then I was like, okay, I'm not attacking the back row anymore because that back row is basically useless. So then he rides the car, gets the best, well, one of the best force markers, which is the Dayusha one. He uses the car skill to call out the draw from top of the deck, and it gets plus 5k power, which is overall a pretty okay call. Then he used the Blaster Dark skill. I choose to retire my rat in the front. He then attacks into my Musashi, and then attacks into my other Musashi, and then he gets the draw and the crit. So now he attacks my Vanguard, and I'm like, well, I'ma take that, because I can use my Zanbaku skill right off the bat. I get myself a draw into another heal, which would have been a 6 damage heal if it did crit me again, so that's also pretty cool. So here, I'm gonna call down the snipe, so that I can get an extra 5k on him. And then I call down my left arrestor, and I use Zanbaku's skill to search for a right arrestor, and then I'm gonna call it out, and then shuffle the deck, and then I'm gonna call, before I call that, yes, okay, good. Before I call down the Fushimi, I need to use the right arrestor skill to counterblast 2 and put 1 card from my hand into my soul to prevent my opponent from riding again. And then here he just retired the draw trigger because it was supposed to be retired at the end of the turn, but he just forgot. So this is a 29k swing, and then I get a crit, which is also the nice extra feel in this game, and that's gonna be it. So that's gonna be it for this video. That fight was quite fast, but we are playing one of the most aggressive Axel decks as well that manages to just do everything all at once. So I think it does figure that it would go fast. You know, I think a lot of the games I've played actually went quite fast. So the deck is really good, and it's very punishing. And you know, I didn't really get to record too much the effects of Zanbaku and your opponent not being able to ride or, you know, a drive check or anything because, well, he lost on that point. But I think I showed, you know, the overall capabilities of the deck and what it can do. So it's still something that you guys find interesting. But on that note, that's going to be it for me today. We have one more clan to go, which is Dark Irregulars. I'll try to get it out this week, so probably Wednesday or something. But I'll try to find as much time as possible to put in the time to playtest it and record everything and still get it out. So I hope it still works out before release date. But on that note, that's going to be it for me today. So don't forget to check out the second channel as well as click the bell button, and also check out the social medias in the description and join the Discord channel if you haven't already. But on that note, I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.